Andrew.
Can we use episode, is this 83?
84?
84?
84.
Can we use it to, can I ask you a personal question?
Okay.
You're in a mixed holiday household now?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Do you do a Christmas tree?
You know,
or a holiday tree?
It's funny that you say that. This is actually the first year that we have done a tree.
You did do a tree?
Yes.
Okay.
A tree was given to us.
Okay.
The previous year, after the holidays.
Oh, so it's like
it's a fake
it's
one.
like a pack-away tree.
Yeah, it's a fake tree.
Okay. This solves all my questions for your particular scenario. Hi, welcome to We Were Gamers, a podcast about trees.
Yeah.
Not those types of trees.
Deciduous and firs and all kinds of stuff. Evergreen. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. I went to pick up a Christmas tree today.
Yeah.
A real one.
Uh-huh.
Like a one that smells and you have to water.
So you went to a generally a parking lot and picked one up from there. That's typically where they are.
I walked on asphalt to pick up a living thing that's supposed to be stuck in the ground.
Right.
I haven't transitioned to the fake tree thing. But we have a large vehicle, an SUV, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no problem picking up a tree every year, of 7-foot height-ishness.
That's pretty tall.
Yeah, well, we got 8-foot roofs and a 6-foot tree just doesn't look right.
Okay. I'm not judging, I'm just saying it's tall.
Oh, yeah. Well, you end up cutting off about half a foot between the saw on the bottom and you got to trim the top to get the thing to sit right. Anyway. I get why people do this, but I was thinking about you particularly because I don't think that you have in between the two of you anything other than a sedan or a yours
that's
is a
correct.
coupe.
Yeah, she has a coupe also, but it's a bigger one than mine.
Right.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of sedan / coupes there as well, not SUVs. And point of advice for people, 2 things. Measuring back to front is great when you put the seats down and you're like, cool, we can fit a 6-foot tree. Remember to measure girth.
Mm-hmm.
And then also maybe empty your trunk before trying to stick a tree in it.
So I want to ask this question. Did you put the tree inside your car?
Usually strap it to the top.
Right, yes, okay. That's what I would assume. Yeah,
because I have a roof rack that I can put on and then put the tree on.
I think that even if you didn't have a roof rack, you would still want to tie it down to the top because I can't see fitting that into a car and then having to clean the car for the next 15 years to get pine needles out of it.
The needles. I didn't even think about that. I was just watching these people desperately trying to shove the trees they'd already purchased through this tiny little hole in the back of their car.
Yeah, like what are they doing, man? Like just that car is now completely full of pine needles.
Well, that solves it, though. If your tree comes in a box, then you can just unpack it every year.
Yeah.
You don't have to go get it one.
Yeah, so the convenience of that is pretty strong.
Right
like
on.
I said, we sort of were given the tree as a hey, this is not something we want anymore. Here, you guys take this. And so we put it up. We decorated it a little bit. We've got some ornaments, for ourselves. And then my parents gave me a bunch of my old holiday ornaments.
Oh, fun. Right on.
Yeah, but we're decorating.
Does the menorah sit next to it?
No, the menorah is in the other room. Is it out already? It is out. Yeah. And the sort of the Hanukkah decorations are kind of all over the table in the dining room.
You guys are ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right
I think we're having a few people over for parents and stuff for Hanukkah. We're doing a little dinner party thing.
It's the holiday time.
It is.
Time to get going. Well, we should get going on this pod before... We're going to date it right now because it's during Santa Ana winds. And any moment now, some tree is going to fall over and knock out my power.
Oh, is it that bad up there, huh?
Things are bending.
Okay. Well, we'll make it a slightly shorter one than usual.
We'll see.
Yeah, see how long the topics carry us.
Right on. Well, I need to know about your Switch first. I need to know about it because you're texting me all sorts of Mario stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm jealous, and I can't go further without knowing: is it worth owning one since you've played it for maybe 3 hours?
Yeah, receiving it over the weekend is not necessarily giving me a ton of time to play since there was other stuff happening.
We were gamers,
yeah, right.
Where you realize your weekend is your busy time.
Yes. We went to a event called December Nights, where we were at Balboa Park, and all the museums are free from 5 to 11 p.m. And it's like a festival, and they do a bunch of like food booths and drink stations and stuff, and it was a very fun time.
Drink stations in museums?
No.
Oh, I was going to say that's...
in designated areas, Andrew, because they have to be securityed and check IDs and stuff.
Feels like it's asking for trouble to have like a museum of antiquities with beer.
Yeah. But so anyway, we were doing that, so consequently I did not get much chance to play the Switch. But what can I say about Mario? I've gotten like into a couple of different lands. Gosh, how many moons have I collected? I don't know. The moons are... so I guess we'll back up and talk a little bit about the Switch itself. People who haven't seen it, it's like kind of like a weirdly long tablet.
I've heard it's basically an iPad mini with controllers stacked on the sides of it.
I don't know what an iPad mini looks like, but that sounds reasonable. There's definitely...
Okay.
The thing that makes it weird shaped are the controllers on the side. If you took the controllers
Otherwise,
off,
it would look like a tablet.
Yeah, but then you hold it sideways and not vertically. So, yeah. So that's what it is. I have exclusively played it in the docked mode, so on my TV. I have not tried it handheld, so I can't speak to that. Sooner or later here, I'm going to get called in for jury duty, and I will endeavor to take it to that if I can, and see if I can find out the handheld capability then.
You got to get your full usage out of it.
Right. Run the battery all the way down and see how that goes.
Oh, well, now we know that the 3DS is dead. You're not going to get any street passes at jury duty.
No, I wasn't going to get any at jury duty anyway, though, to be completely clear. Yeah, so the interface is very, like... Spartan when you turn it on, right? It's just like a row of boxes, and the boxes are filled in with software, whatever software you have or have played on it before. So when you first turn it on, there's nothing. There's like, it's just like empty boxes, you know? And then there's like 5 or 6 icons along the bottom that are like news, the shop, settings, turning the thing into sleep mode, and a couple other ones that I forget.
Got it.
So yeah, it's pretty basic. The controllers, you know, are just the 2 little handheld things, are really small. If you have large hands, you will find them to fit very awkwardly. Yeah, I immediately did not like that and switched to the Pro controller almost immediately.
Oh, so you pre-bought a Pro knowing that you were going to have a problem?
Yes.
Pre-bought Pro for your problem?
Yes. The Pro controllers are much more standard, like video game controller looking thing.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
It has all the same buttons in both cases. They're just, you know, it's a
but they're built for
thing.
Non-children hands.
It is definitely bigger. Yeah. I feel weird having the 2 hands being separate and able to flail about or whatever.
You never owned a Wii.
Not really. No. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you get used to that on the Wii, it might be okay, but those Wii controllers are the size of a good-sized hand. Yeah, it's not like they're tiny.
At some point, you feel like you could almost crush this with your hand. Almost. It's a little bit bigger than that, so you wouldn't quite, at least in my hand, you wouldn't quite be able to do it. But, yeah, so I played some Mario. The game just seems very happy all the time, which is kind of refreshing. You know, Mario is a very happy-go-lucky guy. You know, Peach gets kidnapped by Bowser. I guess spoilers. I don't think that's really a spoiler.
Peach still no agency in 2017.
Yeah. And you very quickly meet Cappy, the hat,
A sentient hat?
Yes, he's like a ghost that takes on the form of your hat.
Oh, okay. So it's a possessed hat.
Or whatever. I don't know.
It's a possessed hat that possesses things?
They don't really explain what he is, other than he's from the Cap Kingdom, where there are some other people like him. And a lot of hat buildings. I mean, I don't know if he's a ghost. He has a tail like a ghost.
Oh, no.
He looks like a boo with a hat over, like a top hat over its head, so that all you can see is the little tail hanging out of the bottom, and then giant eyes.
Stuff of nightmares.
Yeah. And so then, from then on, you have this hat that you can throw and jump off of and do the various Mario open world running around things. And not really open world, but like, open area, like set piece level things. And if you throw the hat onto any of the mini creatures that are sitting around, you can possess them and like be those creatures for a little bit, which is really interesting. And you use those to solve puzzles and stuff like, oh, if I possess this frog, I can jump really high and that'll let me get up this ledge that I wouldn't have been able to get up to before.
Can you see Mario when you possess, like, okay, I possess the cat in front of me. If I turn the cat around.
The hat now sits on the frog, and the frog has a little mustache. And it has a red hat.
If the frog turns around, is Mario standing there in kind of like a weird daze? Or like, what happens to Mario when
he's inside over? That hat. He's inside that animal or whatever.
Oh, no.
They kind of go into it. You see like a bunch of like trippy, like psychedelic stuff as you get sucked in there the first time, and they kind of just like, whoa, he's on some crazy magic space in there, while also controlling the animal or whatever, robot, whatever.
Sweet, but also kind of existentially weird.
Yeah, and then you kind of wander around and you're collecting moons. Those are the thing that you're, the sort of the item that you're getting in every level.
Sure.
Much like you were collecting shines in Super Mario Sunshine or stars in Super Mario 64.
It's weird that they don't stick with one. Also that the moons in this are red.
The moons change color depending on which kingdom you're in.
Oh, so okay. I've only seen the red ones from the store, I think.
Yeah, so it just depends on where you are, what color the moons are. So some of them are blue, green, red, whatever. And so it's just sort of so you can tell. So the various kingdoms look a little different.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's been really cool. Really, really fun. It's a lot of jumping around, and the moons are kind of everywhere. You'll just be like, they give you a like kind of a like a little scene or something where they like have a glowing pointer off in the distance. It's like, and then they put up a name like the moon under the sand or something. And then there's a glowing pointer there, and you have to go over to that one, and it will sort of move the, quote, main story along. But there's like 700 other moons lying around if you just like run around and do stuff.
Oh.
It's like, oh, you put the flowers in the correct order in this town, and you get a moon for that. Stuff like that. So,
sweet.
Typical. You fight a boss, you have to hit it 3 times kind of thing. Look, it's a Mario game.
Yay.
Yeah.
I did wonder a little bit, like, what's the difference between being Mario and being Kirby now?
Interesting. Yeah. I guess Kirby is pink. That might be the only difference.
You don't suck people inside you and stay Kirby?
Right, yeah. I guess that's the difference, too, right? He doesn't suck people inside. There's just, you put a hat on him. I enjoyed the fun little touch that if they are wearing a hat, you can't put your hat on them.
Oh, so they're being possessed by somebody else from the Cap Kingdom?
Or they're just wearing a hat, man. I don't know. It's like, it's okay for like the Koopa Troopa to wear a hat. Like, he just wants to sometimes.
Okay. So like a helmeted man.
Yeah.
Would not be takeoverable.
Right, unless you can knock that helmet off.
Okay, got it. Sweet.
Yeah, so it's been very cool. I have liked it.
And it keeps you wanting to play a Switch.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the time that I've spent with it so far. Like, it's fun to go back to. I don't, I don't have the desire to like sit and play it for hours and hours and hours.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because you can like run, down a lane and jump on a guy and get a moon, and you're like, oh, I accomplished something. Great. And then you can be like, yeah, I'm good.
And then turn it off.
Yeah. I feel that way anyway.
Well, it's kind of what they designed the Switch for in a way, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and it looks really nice. The game is very beautiful looking. You know, the environment art and stuff is very cool.
Sure.
So far. So I'm really enjoying it. It definitely goes some places I did not expect. There's like some real interesting stuff that you can see and do.
Cool. Right on. Switch Conversation 1.
Yeah.
Hopefully many more.
You'll hear more about it from me over the ensuing days, I'm sure.
Fire Emblem Heroes just hit 2.0. Do we care?
I haven't been playing, but do we know what that means?
Yeah. I pull up things to ask you about, and then I lose them. Here we go. Main story book 2. Weapons.
Okay.
And weapon refining. Legendary heroes. So harder to find, I guess.
Wonderful.
And legendary heroes have a special ability, like that you can use to help your other heroes.
Okay.
New special events. And more quests.
Well, I don't think I will get back into that game. But it's cool that they're still supporting it.
Yeah, man.
For the people that are into it.
A whole nother story book, this length of the original one, is not short, although...
Yeah, I mean, there were a good number of battles in that first one, although by the end, some of them were pretty tough.
Sure.
I felt at the time, anyway. Yeah, cool, though. Like, awesome. I'm glad they're continuing to put stuff out for that. I know there's some people that are really into that game, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just didn't think it sounded like enough to get me back in, but I didn't know if you'd heard about it.
I hadn't, but I also don't think it's enough to get me back in either.
Oh, man.
Speaking of things that are coming out very soon, as of this recording, Andrew, Kobolds and Catacombs, the Hearthstone expansion, comes out on like 4 days from now, later this week.
Okay, so December 7th.
Yes.
Yeah. Which will be before this recording hits.
Yes, so will have...
Kobolds and Catacombs is out.
Yes, if you're hearing this now, you can play it now. I will be interested in the next episode to hear your opinions on the dungeon run. I know
Yes.
They've revealed all the cards in the expansion. That stuff's out there for people that want to look it up.
It'll be time to make a Ryan phone call, I think.
Maybe, yes.
It's always time when there's a new expansion. But I think that'll be good. I think the dungeon runs will... I mean, I've got it on my phone ready to go, so...
There is a stream with Day 9 and Ben Brode from... it was either the day we're recording this or the previous day.
Okay.
Where they go through some dungeon runs, and there's some pretty silly stuff in there towards the later part of that stream, if you want to check that out, just to see what it would be like.
Absolutely, that interests me. I did not know that they were streaming the dungeon runs. I thought that was kind of like it's a secret thing.
They did like a reveal stream where they played some decks with the new cards, and then afterwards they did a couple of dungeon runs.
Sweet. I will go check out dungeon runs and make sure, but I think that I will be day one, not day 9, day 1. At least trying out a dungeon run. It sounds interesting to me as a time killer on my phone, because a lot of the time killer stuff is not so good.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Animal Crossing.
Yeah, that game is out.
I talked about it last episode and said that I hadn't given it enough time to be sure that it was something to either rail against or be for.
Mm-hmm.
If you're into like that free-to-play thing, it definitely feels like the older like Simpsons style games. You go in and you shake a tree and you knock fruit off of it, and then the tree has a timer on it.
And can I pay real money to accelerate this timer?
I'm sure you can do that, and you can like pay real money to make your faction, or they don't call it a friend level with different animals go up faster, so you can get more missions, so you can go collect more things, so you can go give them more things, so they can build things for you with the things you collect. the inventory alone was mind-boggling, and like right in the middle of me trying to learn the game, a day into it, they started adding in like candy canes for a winter thing that you couldn't tell was happening because nothing happened to the rest of the game except that they added in these candy canes. So then I was all discombobulated because everyone wanted candy canes and I didn't know how to get them.
The fun part in a lot of those Animal Crossing games is sort of being able to like set out your house and kind of like upgrade it the way you like and kind of make the town sort of fit a theme that you kind of like. Is there any of that stuff? Do you get to decorate it all?
So there's this map system in the game where it essentially is like a spoked wheel, and in the middle of the spoked wheel is your little camp, and the camp is what you can like change around and do and make it look however you want, and you can add stuff to it from the store.
Okay.
The camp comes almost fully furnished with like a theme of like outdoorsy stuff.
Okay. I mean, I guess it's a camp, so that makes sense.
Sure. But it kind of looks full already. So like looking at it for me, I think, well, how am I going to put my stamp on this? I'm going to make a different couch there, or like do I have to like delete all this stuff or put it all away to see a blank thing? And it's not very big. Your character is about a third of the size of the screen, and so you don't get to see very much of your camp, and they don't make it very big because you can't see very much of it. So it's enough for like a tent and like a little patio and maybe like a add-on area for maybe like a tennis court size thing, and that's about it. And the tennis court is obviously like, tiny. It's not the size of a tennis court versus the size of your character.
Sure.
And then all these other areas on the spoked wheel are just for you to run around collecting things and upping friend levels with people that are in those areas. And then I went to go check those areas out, and I had my big oh no moment.
Okay. What was the oh no moment?
There are other players that can like show up in your game. They don't do anything like negative or positive technically. They just sort of sit in your game when you load in.
Okay.
So I went to an area to go fishing, and also fishing was this kanji guy. His name was in kanji, so I don't know what it was.
Okay.
And so I click on him. They haven't explained who he is, right? Like I've gone through the whole tutorial. They don't explain, at least in the part of the tutorial I had gotten through, that there's gonna be a guy and like you can learn about people showing up, and you click on them and you can do the normal stuff like go visit their camp, which shockingly looked very much like my camp, except that he had a tent with flames on it and a Harley Davidson parked out front, and then all the other same stuff that I had.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's cool. But again, it felt like he had two pieces of flair on the same, like the same uniform.
Okay. Sure, yeah.
Right. And then, you can say that he has a cool looking camp or whatever, all the Nintendo-y stuff. And then there's this other button you can click called Market Box.
Okay.
How do you feel about D3 auction houses, JJ?
Auction houses aren't good.
How do you feel about like collecting things in a free-to-play game and then putting them in a box for people to buy off you for in-game money?
I mean, that doesn't seem great.
Yeah, it doesn't. Kanji character name guy was selling cherries for $2,000 a pop.
Is that a good price for cherries?
I have no. How would I know?
I guess that's a good point. How would you know? Well, that doesn't seem awesome.
Yeah, so that's kind of when I was like, I don't want to be managing a market box. I don't see. Cool, this guy had a Harley, so now I want a Harley, but like, it's not going to change. My camp's going to look like 150,000 other people's camps, and it's not very big, and everything's got timers, and I just felt the free-to-play crunch hit me way, way faster than Fire Emblem Heroes, and so that won't be my busy work game, because it sounds like a work game where you have to remember to log in every 3 hours and do 150 chores if you don't want to pay money.
Yeah. I have heard that game really gets in your face with the buy the paid currency stuff pretty quickly, which is lame.
Yeah,
because
it's too bad.
Like a real, true Animal Crossing game seems like it would be perfect for a phone. But I guess not.
Maybe one that you could turn sideways rather than in portrait mode, so you could actually see your town and actually build, like a town.
Yeah,
I mean, just port New Leaf over, right? New Leaf was popular. I haven't played it yet, but people liked that.
Yeah, they did, and it was supposed to be very good.
I mean, maybe just port New Leaf to my phone and I'll play that.
Yeah.
I would pay real money, like enough for them to make a port.
Yeah, but they're not going to sell 800, animal bucks or whatever each time you want to get that sweet new Harley Davidson, Andrew.
I know. I hear you. This conversation about loot boxes and free-to-play games and all that's going to change, I think, with all the government people that are starting to get interested in how predatory these things can be. So,
well,
there'll be a shift.
Time remains to see. I will be happy if some of the more ridiculous aspects of them go away.
Yeah. Well,
that's a bummer.
Yeah. I've been keeping myself busy with a few other things at night while I sift through the never-ending ending of Bravely Default, and I'll just say that so as a non-spoiler. It's easy to pass the time at the end of that game by watching some Netflix.
Yeah, there has been a veritable cornucopia of fun stuff on that. I don't know. I was about to call it a network, but it's not a network. That website / streaming platform recently.
Hey, are you getting ready to pay an extra $15 to watch Netflix?
Do I need to?
I mean, Ajit Pai wants you to.
Oh, yes. The infamous the chairman of the FCC.
Should we take our minute to remind people that net neutrality is important?
We should. It does seem like, they can call their Congress people and let them know that this is very important and it needs to be protected.
Yeah. Title II protections. Make sure that you're not paying extra for accessing the same basic data.
Yes. And I know we here support that. And I think overwhelmingly almost all people who use the internet for their work and their job care about this very much. So
absolutely. Yeah. And you don't want to pay for the video game tier, right? So anyway.
But
I don't want to play for the next Netflix tier.
No, neither do I, because I feel like the amount that they charge me per month is already pretty good.
Yep.
So what has been piquing your interest of late on the Netflix, Andrew?
Well, this is a multimedia podcast, right? So we do recharge ourselves with what? Pop culture?
Yeah, we definitely.
Beyond video games?
Yeah, we've talked about movies and stuff before on here and TV shows in the past.
It feels like since Halloween, it's just been like a never-ending stream of good shows coming off of there, and it started with my inability to keep up with Netflix shows releasing. Started with Stranger Things.
Yes,
we normally do a bonus for Stranger Things, but I think we should just do it.
Yeah, we're here. I think we have both now finished the season of Stranger Things season 2, and let's talk about it.
Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah,
from here on out, basically from here to the end of the episode, spoilers for shows on Netflix.
Yeah. So if people want to tune out, that's great, and we will catch you in the next episode. Send us some email, and we'll catch y'all later. But
podcast at WeWereGamers.
That's right.
.com. But
for everyone else who's sticking around, Andrew, Stranger Things season 2 was very tense.
Yeah, it started off with like a weird little mind bender there with like, hey, by the way, there's these other people, girl with powers.
Yeah, and then they kind of did some flashback stuff showing what had happened to 11 in the immediate wake of what happened at the end of the previous season.
Yeah.
And then kind of caught us up to where she was now living with Hopper.
I enjoyed the fact that there was no crazy, like, have to chase her in the upside down, like, for half of the season.
Yeah.
That they were just kind of like, she got out of there pretty freaking easily, and then Hopper's been protecting her.
Well, it seems like it's pretty easy for people to get into and out of the upside down in some instances. And in that case, like, well, it should be easy enough for her to get out if she was able to get in, right?
Right, sure. And it was kind of cool to see that Hopper's kid, the like foreshadowing last season of like, oh yeah, he had this kid and all that, was prepping basically for this entire season of Hopper's relationship with 11.
Yeah, very cool to see a lot of that stuff pay off, because they definitely told us, like he'd had a wife, and they lost their child, and that was just sort of his tragic backstory as to why he was a drunk cop that was all surly all the time. But then now seeing that sort of stuff pay off with him having to learn how to raise 11 and be a kind of a father figure was pretty good.
Yeah, sure. I don't know about you, but like I really felt when they showed 8 at the beginning that we were going to get a different story from the start there. Like there was all these, all the kids were coming back, and you knew that there was going to be another continuing story in Hawkins, yeah. But like I was like, oh cool, are we going to see like half a season of other stuff like we thought, and then it'll be like tied into Hopper and then back, and then No, it was basically still just in Hawkins. Although they did take a couple trips outside of Hawkins this time. Absolutely, yeah, that was cool.
So, it seems to be spreading somewhat, or at least there are other people who are. I believe the other girl was 8, right?
8, yeah. How did 8 sit with you?
It was interesting that she was clearly a lot older than 11.
It seemed like the actress was, but I couldn't tell if they were supposed to be different ages.
I also couldn't tell. The way she came off acted as though she was a lot older.
Sure, she seemed, 10 years older.
Right. So I don't know if that was, the intent or not.
In the flashbacks, they looked similarly aged.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe... also, I guess 11 seems younger because she's kind of like developmentally hindered compared with, like a normal person her age.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that plays out well, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. The whole story with 11 heading up to, where was that even? Cleveland or something?
Chicago?
Chicago, maybe.
No, it was Ohio, right? So... I don't know.
It could be Chicago. I have no idea. Anyway, that whole scene was, I thought that they were taking the story on like a pretty big, drastic turn, Mm-hmm. They're going to be like, oh, now they're going to have to go chase 11 and find her. Nope. 11's, feelings for the gang kind of went out, and she heads back after she senses that something is going wrong.
Right, yeah.
Maybe
feels responsible.
Maybe a bit of a lost, I don't know, like a lost, like a chance to have done something different. But I mean, I guess 8 is still out there at the end of the episode, or at the end of the season, so they could bring her back in some way in future seasons.
Absolutely. I think that, I was going to say, I guess I could just say it now. I don't see how the season 3 progresses without a moment of 8 versus 11.
Yeah, they definitely seem like they left on some pretty bad terms after, the way that their little raid, I guess, on that guy went down. 8 seems pretty happy to use her powers for her own personal gain. 11 sort of seemed to be trying to do some greater good type stuff. Yeah, so it definitely seems like, if the gates and stuff are being widened by the use of those powers, then you wonder if 8 is causing more problems,
Yeah, and as far as I remember, 11 was the one that opened the gate, and that's why she was the one sealing it again at the end. And I had forgotten about her ability to spy, which is the thing that caused the problem in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Because she was able to go into this weird extra dimension. But I don't know if the other power... It's really not touched on whether other powers are opening problems other places.
Right.
And again, do we have an opportunity to go outside Hawkins with Hopper or somebody else that knows what's going on?
Right. And you wonder, okay, well, 8 is having... she seems to be using her illusionary powers pretty liberally, just sort of when she feels like it. And,
right.
If 11 had opened a portal at some point, hers just happened to be in Hawkins, what if 8 had done something similar somewhere else? Or did 8 escape before then? Or, who knows? I don't know. Obviously, there's places and stuff that they could...
They need to do something wacky somewhere to get Paul Reiser back.
As
right?
the hard on his luck, I'm just here trying to do my job, doctor. But
I don't know. Is this?
I keep getting pulled back into this stuff a week before retirement or whatever.
I feel like the Hopper Reiser or Owens, I guess is his character's name. Like the play on between those two is enough to make me watch like a buddy cop chasing down X-Files moments with both of them.
Yeah, it was pretty good. He definitely came off as, I have to do what the company wants me to do. I'm sorry. And you were never clear exactly how sorry he was or was not, but it turns out he's a pretty good guy at the end of things.
But, at least he's not the company man from Aliens that he used to be, right?
Right, that's true. He could have been that guy, and he wasn't.
Yeah. It's a little bit of redeeming, although, he wasn't able to say Bob.
No. I thought it was very funny listening. I was talking about this show with some coworkers a little bit ago, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that guy, isn't he the guy from that one show or whatever?" I'm like, "No, he's Sam the Hobbit."
Sean Astin.
You guys saw that movie. You know who that is. This is him. He didn't star in all those Lord of the Rings movies for you to know him as the guy from that one TV show.
Well, he made a Goonies reference in Stranger Things.
Yes, he was in the Goonies. If you're going to remember him from something, you can remember him from that.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was funny that people remember, oh, yeah, he was on this TV show. It's like, no.
I liked Bob.
Yeah. Sorry, Bob. You were too good to be true.
Almost as good as Steve. Is Steve now the most popular character on that show? Did he surpass everybody?
I don't know, he definitely became like a cool older brother to Dustin at some point during their misadventures.
They definitely have that moment at the end, so certainly.
Yeah. Teaches him the secret of the hair trick.
Oh my god.
It's so 80s.
75 layers of hairspray or whatever that was.
Right. Very silly,
oh
the
my
whole
god.
thing. Big hair was a deal.
He has that moment towards the end where his character is just like, where was this? Remember Steve from the first season? This is not Steve. This is somebody else. Somebody new.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It's a cool thing to see a character that like openly was despised by basically the entire audience to grudgingly accepted by the end of the first season to become basically the folk hero of the show.
Well, I really hope that they don't go back on Natalie's story arc then and have her get back together with Steve, because I really think that it would make me very angry. They've kind of left that, like, Steve kind of eventually left that, like, what is it, the, like, wistful, unrequited love stuff behind finally by the end. So I hope they take him in a different direction after this.
Do you feel like it was kind of a cheap distraction to try and make you think that those two people were like Russian spies? Did you think they were Russian spies?
No. Wait, who are we talking about?
The Californians. the new girl that joins the group and her brother.
Wait, were they insinuating that they were Russian spies at some point?
Oh, yeah. For part of it, they were like insinuating that they were Russian spies. Definitely.
Oh, okay. I definitely didn't get that.
Oh.
I guess I thought that since we never saw Max being the girl that we're talking about here.
Correct.
Max. The new girl to the group.
I should directly.
I guess since we never saw their parents for like most of the season, I assumed that there was going to be some revelation that like her older brother was actually her dad, or like it was some kind of like really messed up family situation and they had like run away from home or something, and like that was going to be the reveal there.
Oh, right. Well, it did turn out to be
kind of messed up, but in a different way, like a more conventional way, I guess, than I expected.
Sure. No, there was definitely like talk of the Russians a lot in the show, and then everything they said was kind of ambiguous at a certain point. Like, I'm not her brother, or like.
Yeah, I never got the insinuation that people were saying they were Russians. I know that people were kind of like, oh, they're weird, but I assume.
Oh no, I don't know
because they were from California.
Yeah, I don't know if people thought they were Russian spies. I was just saying the show overarching narrative was implying that could be their backstory, and then they filled it in later.
Gotcha. Yeah. I didn't really pick up on that, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's just in my head.
I don't know. Maybe you were the Russian spy.
Podcast that We Were Gamers.
There you go. Send us your hot fan theories.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It looks like next season's just starting right away again with the same bad guy in the same place. I don't know. They just flip the thing upside down and they're like, hey, look, the shadow monster's still there.
Yeah, I mean, look, they didn't like defeat him or anything. They just kind of like closed the door in classic D&D hero fashion. You slam the door to the tomb in the evil monster's face and then kind of hope it goes away.
Sure, yeah. I thought it was as good as the first season. It's probably not as revelatory in terms of the nostalgia feel, but although there was new stuff like arcades and things like that.
Yeah, the arcade stuff was really cool.
But still great. Still fantastic.
Yeah, I was very happy with the season overall. I really had a good time. I thought it was a lot more suspenseful in a lot of cases.
Absolutely.
There was a lot. I mean, I guess that makes sense, right? Because the first season they had to do a lot of world building. They didn't really have to do that. You kind of knew what you were getting into here.
Oh yeah, and like trying to get through that building that they were in was already haunting enough given the first season and how many people were killed in it. And then to have the exact repeat of that opening scene where the people are trying to run to the elevator and Dr. Owens is like, nope, don't go that way. I don't know if you remember that part.
Yeah, at the end when they're being chased by the dogs, right?
Right, yeah. And he's like, no. Like last time people tried to run from the dogs, they got chewed up in the elevator. Yeah. So, like, and then, the entire build, it's suspenseful, way more suspenseful for sure. Those tunnels, Hopper getting stuck down there. Yeah, people getting sprayed in the faces with things.
Right. There was definitely the first season had like its creepy and scary moments.
The horror aspect of the first one where the walls were bending in and stuff like that. There was a lot less of that this time around and a lot more direct, just outright. It's more sci-fi than horror, and the first one was a little bit more horror.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I think we both very heartily enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like they have renewed for season 3, so they're ready to get back to work on making more. So, I don't know, probably next year or the year after sometime soon.
Sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll watch more. As long as I can still afford the Netflix tier of internet.
Yes.
I also I tried out the Punisher show.
Yeah? How was that?
I finished it.
Okay. How many episodes?
I was right. Again, spoilers. I was right in my prediction that they were doing a thing. They were like, the Punisher is the man, not the suit. And so I think I tallied it up, and he wore a decent amount of screen time because he wears the skull body armor in the last episode for quite a bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
But he wears it essentially 3 times in 13 episodes. And the first 2 times are extremely minimal. You could blink and miss that he was wearing them. And also the weird, he's supposed to have spray painted it, but it looks like way over Marvel designed, you know?
He hired a professional graphic designer to spray paint the front of his armor.
And it's definitely like silk screened on there.
Yeah.
And then the bullets, when they hit them, make exact circles, you know, out of the paint, that sort of thing. But you know, that's a Marvel thing. It's always kind of had that aesthetic of like the over-designed logo scenario. They did a thing. I don't know if you want to know.
You can tell me.
So, like, the backstory of the Punisher is that a crime family kills his kids and his wife on a merry-go-round. And that was the backstory of the Punisher in the Daredevil show. And they start this show out, and he's like, the first episode, he knocks off the last few people on his list. And it's over. Oh, yeah, hooray, it's over. Except CIA spy thriller, The Punisher is Jason Bourne.
What?
Yeah. But like the crime family was hired or something by the CIA to kill his family because he knew about things in Afghanistan. It's a weird conceit to try and get him back into killing more people. And then it's good again for a while. He gets this partner because the way that Jon Bernthal portrays the Punisher, he kind of needs to bounce off somebody. Otherwise, it's just too much grovel voice. Not that he's bad at it. It's just that the Punisher's a tough nut to crack to begin with, and the way that they took it works, but it needed Matt Murdock and Daredevil in the first one to really like make him come into his own, and man, he did there. I don't know if you saw that, but it's worth watching for sure. The Punisher episodes of Daredevil season 2. But this one is a little bit more like they realized if they put him in his own show, he needed essentially a sidekick who you wonder who's the sidekick for a little while and all that.
Okay. So they tried to make a little more of instead of it being like a solo thing, like the Punisher was always a very solitary character. He did stuff on his own, and
that's kind of my question is like, they had to do it because I can see the portrayal of him would just wear on you if he were being as Punisher-y as he is all the time without anybody else.
Right.
But like you miss a lot of he has to talk about his loneliness to another person.
Right, because otherwise you don't get any of the characterization, right?
Well, so rather than showing him in this solitariness like they did in the first show where you're peeking in on it from Daredevil's point of view, he's with somebody almost all the time now. So
right,
it's a weird version of the Punisher, and then you have to deal with like all the spy tropes, and everybody who's going to betray him along the way, and what's going to happen to most of the people. There's 1 or 2 tiny surprises. And there's like a weird subplot with like a bomber or something.
Okay.
And
you sound kind of nonplussed about the whole thing.
Not nonplussed. It was good. Like everything about it was good. You just had to like work through. Like, okay, I know why these characters are here because this is going to happen to them in 4 episodes. Oh, it happened, Or like, oh, this person's going to betray him by the end of the season. Oh, look, he did. And there's a few characters that are just there to be foils for other characters, and they don't really serve a purpose, and they're really just cardboard cutouts. Like, especially the like directors of Homeland Security and the CIA seem like cardboard cutouts of a character. I kind of wish they just hadn't written them in there.
They're just there to be a authority figure and kind of nothing else.
Yeah, it's hand me your badge and gun almost.
Yeah. Oh, okay, like that bad, huh?
It's real close. And
Yikes.
like the Homeland Security agent that is a woman that clearly they used to be okay, this is a strong woman standing up to Frank Castle, right? Like that's a thing that would not immediately gel with Frank Castle. Well, that's good. And the actress is mostly good. The character suffers a little bit, I think, from being pushed into being as strong as Frank Castle rather than earning being as strong as Frank Castle.
Maybe they didn't give her enough time or give her character
I don't know if there was
time.
enough. Yeah, I didn't know if there was enough breathing room for her to have earned. You know, like by the end of it, you're like, yeah, she was as tough as Frank Castle, right?
Right.
She takes this character, Dina, takes a bullet to the head at the end of the show.
Wow.
Yeah, and she lives through it. She lives, but she does it because of the choices she made through the entire show, and she earns it by the end, and she lives through it, and they have a discussion, and you're kind of like, yeah, was earned in this aspect, but she starts the show that hard. And you're kind of like, how? I don't see how.
Yeah, you need to have that like overheard conversation about how all the cool things she's done in the past.
Well, she was supposed to have been in Afghanistan at the same time that Frank was, but you see Frank's flashbacks, and you see a lot of them, but you don't
get
really,
it from her perspective.
Yeah, all she sounds like is that she says her partner, but you almost wonder if it was her boyfriend got killed. And that's literally the only thing she talks about Afghanistan. They killed Abu Zair. That's it. That's the only phrase she has about her time there. And it's kind of like, well, what did she do there? Is she as big of a BA as Frank is? Or like what? Like, tell me more if you want her to be this person straight off the bat. So I couldn't tell. The actress did a great job standing up to the Punisher acting, in her own right. But I struggled with a lot of stuff in it, and I wanted to go in being like, yeah, and it's just the uneven. Uneven's probably the best word for the show.
So I actually had a discussion with someone about this show who was a service member. He served in the infantry, and we had a pretty short discussion about the show, but we were just talking about TV and stuff that we had been enjoying. He mentioned how much he liked The Punisher because it really spoke to him about a lot of the aspects that he liked about his service and and camaraderie, and then coming home and having to understand how that changes people and stuff. And he felt that they did a good job of portraying that.
There is definitely a very large subplot to portray that, and I think that 85% of it is very, very good, and then it kind of just goes off the rails into a little bit unbelievable territory because they need the story to move.
Yeah, I mean, at some point they still have to make a superhero out of it, right?
Sure, but the foil that they add, not foil, but the backboard they add for Frank to talk to, whose name's Micro, right? He's a very good character on his own, and he honestly he acts just as hard as John Bernthal does in his own geeky way, right? He's like a spook computer geek guy. Mm-hmm. But the times that Bernthal has to reflect on his service and why he struggles, and then he reflects later with another character on his service, are very... to a person that did not serve, they felt intuitive, like they were real. Like they really thought about what it would mean to struggle to be home, having done things you may not be proud of once you're around other people.
Cool. Well, it sounds like it. You would still recommend it then after
narratively
the
uneven, but thematically very strong.
Okay. How true would you say it is to the sort of the idea of the Punisher character that Marvel has?
The Daredevil section of his story would probably be more directly accurate because it sticks to the original storyline where he's always basically fighting criminals because he's never going to run out of gang members, and gang members killed his family. Mm-hmm. And this really takes it in a different, like the spy Jason Bourne direction, and that part kind of a little bit bothers me. Because now I don't know where he goes from here, right? Like he solved the spy mystery, and we got all the bad guys, and there's definitely, the open-ended, we see the creation of a supervillain in the show. That obviously will come back later, but where does he go now, right? Like he's solved his family's murder twice.
The animus that he has is kind of lessened now.
Right, and they cap the story too at the end where he's like, okay, well, he's changed and he's a different person. So I wonder how do they drag him back into being as gnarly as the Punisher always is? And that part is worrisome from this story, but I still think most of the show is very true. Like, especially having updated him from Vietnam, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Still rings true. And it's definitely the best iteration of the Punisher we're going to get, despite the weird growling sound that he makes.
Okay. Well, he's doing a little Christian Bale Batman there. Sounds like.
I mean, he has like a grovel voice thing, which is fine. It's like an affectation that he puts on, but he does this like yelling thing when he's in the middle of like a firefight or when he's knife fighting or something. And it's kind of like, what are you doing? Like, I don't understand, because it's always the same. It's strange. It's not like he's like struggling. He's like doing like a battle cry,
Okay, I don't know.
And if I see a human that could be shot and stabbed as many times in 13 episodes as that guy was, I would wonder if they were shot with some sort of super soldier serum or something, because I don't think there's an episode in there where he doesn't bleed profusely. So, suspend your disbelief a little bit, but
the violence is still there, it sounds like.
It escalates too. It starts low and you're kind of like, okay, cool, people are getting shot, but like they're not too gratuitous about it. And then by the end you're like, there's guts everywhere. When did we start having guts everywhere? Like I said, narratively uneven, but thematically good.
All right. Well, I think I will probably watch that at some point. I need to get some free time.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's on my list of stuff to do while I'm probably doing some Hearthstone stuff later.
Sure, yeah. I wouldn't say it's like visually you have to stop and watch sort of thing.
Cool. Well, it sounds like that's a pretty good wrap-up of some rad stuff that's on Netflix these days.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. That was a good episode.
Yeah.
All right, well,
we'll do the quick social shout-outs here. People want to get at us. We mentioned the email. It's podcast@WeWereGamers. Go ahead and send us your emails about the Punisher and Stranger Things and whatever else sounds great. And we will be happy to have... engage with you on those discussions.
Yeah, I didn't think I had thought that heavily about Punisher, but I guess I did.
You're a thinker sometimes. You like to think about stuff.
Yeah, once in a while. Well, let's think on Bravely Default next week. What do you say?
Okay, if that's what
it's time.
That's what you're saying.
It's time.
Okay, I'm happy to hear the thoughts.
All right. Is this? Yeah. No, we'll still have another episode before the holiday break, but it's here. It's holiday time.
Yeah, it's definitely holiday time.
Good luck to everyone when your crazy schedules begin.
Yes. Yeah. Stay sane, everybody. Hopefully this podcast gets you through a little bit.